Let us assume that you make up your mind and decide to run 10 kilometers. You have no prior experience in running, but that doesn't stop you from giving it a try. You do all the right things before the run. You eat a lot of carbs the previous night, you hydrate yourself well, and you get adequate amount of sleep. The next day morning, you wake up early, visualize the running track, and you're all set to go out and run the 10 kilometers. But after all the careful planning, you make one silly mistake. Instead of picking a nice comfortable running shoes, you go ahead and pick up a tennis shoes. What do you think will happen? Well, you may still go ahead and complete the run, but the run will be painful. It may not be a very comfortable run, and the chances of injury is very high. Likewise with trading. Imagine that you've identified a perfect trade. You have planned well for this. You have identified your entry point, you've identified your exit point, and you've also identified a meaningful stop loss for the trade. But at the time of placing the order, you carelessly place an order which results in a loss, which you have not anticipated. And this loss can be attributed to something called as an impact cost. Hi, this is Karthik Rangappa, and in this video, I'll talk to you about impact cost. And I'll also talk about techniques using which you can minimize the loss owing to impact cost. Let's understand impact cost with an example. Take a look at this snapshot. This is the snapshot of Hindustan Aeronautics Limited's futures contract expiring on 27th July. If the market was infinitely liquid, then you should be able to buy any quantity of shares or any quantities of futures or option contracts at an ideal price at any point during the day. An ideal price of a security is simply the average of bid and ask spread. From the order book, the ideal price to buy HAL futures is 3,805 plus 3,805.9 divided by 2, which is basically the average, and that results in 3,805.45. But let's say I want to buy 3 lots of HAL futures or about 900 shares. What do you think will be my execution price? Well, the execution price is dependent on the quantity and the price prevailing in the market at the time of me transacting. If you were to do the math, I get 1 lot of HAL futures at 3,805.9, another lot at 3,806.95, and the last lot at 3,807. And the sum average of all the 3 lots across the 3 different price points is 3,806.61. Notice, my execution price to buy 3 lots of futures is 3,806.61, and the ideal price of the security at the time of transaction is 3,805.45. The absolute difference between the execution price and the ideal price is rupees 1.16. And this difference between the execution price and the ideal price is also called the impact cost of the security. You can also express the impact cost as a percentage by dividing the difference between the execution price and the ideal price over the ideal price. And in this example, the impact cost is about 0.03%. On the face of it, the impact cost of 0.03% or about 1.16 may not sound like a big number to be worried about. But remember, impact cost is on a per share basis. If you were to buy multiple lots, then the impact cost will get amplified. In this case, the impact cost for buying 3 lots or about 900 shares gets amplified to 1,044 rupees. Let's take another example. The snapshot that you see here belongs to the futures contract of Oracle Financial Software Services Limited, expiring July 27th. Here, the difference between the bid and the ask price, also called the bid-ask spread, is pretty wide. If you were to do the ideal price math, then the ideal price works out to 3,768.7. Now, if I were to buy 3 lots of OFSS futures, then my execution price would work out to 3,775.04. The impact cost in this case, that is the difference between the execution price and the ideal price, works out to rupees 6.45 or about 0.17%. By now, you should be able to figure that the higher the impact cost, the hit for you as a trader is also higher. Generally speaking, higher the impact cost, lower is the liquidity, higher is the volatility in that instrument. Now, higher impact cost also means higher cost to the trader that the trader must pay. Notice I use the word must. This is to imply that you cannot avoid not paying impact cost. Impact cost cannot be avoided, it can only be minimized. By the way, since I mentioned liquidity, one of the most common questions that gets asked is what are the different measures of liquidity? Of course, impact cost is one of the measures of liquidity, but it's not the only measure of liquidity. There are 4 more ways to measure liquidity: trading frequency, trading turnover, volumes traded, and the ratio of turnover compared to market capitalization. All these 4 are measures of liquidity. Generally speaking, higher the value across any of these metrics, higher is the liquidity. Anyway, going back to impact cost, there are a few things that you should know. Impact cost is dynamic and changes as per the order book. In our example, we considered a situation where we wanted to buy the stock and measured the impact cost for the buy position. Likewise, we can do similar math to find out the impact cost for the sell position. While there is one ideal price, there are 2 impact costs, one for buying, one for selling. Impact cost also depends on the quantity you wish to trade. Do not confuse impact cost with transactional charges. Typically, transactional charges include charges levied by a broker, levied by the exchange. It could be SEBI charges, it could even be your depository charges. Impact cost, on the other hand, is directly attributable to the lack of liquidity in the market. As I mentioned earlier, lower the impact cost, higher is the liquidity, and lower is your charge to transact in that particular security. Impact cost is a dynamic value and it keeps changing as the order book changes throughout the day. Alright, now that we've discussed everything about impact cost and how it impacts your trade, we should also discuss the best practices that you can follow as a trader to minimize the hit due to impact cost. Rule number 1. Check the market depth before placing orders to determine if the order quantity can be placed while keeping the impact cost minimum. For example, if you wish to buy 5,000 shares of a company, but there are only 1,000 shares on offer, then there is no point placing such an order. Avoid market orders and always place limit orders. Now, if you're not sure what market order and limit order is, I would suggest you watch this video where we've explained different order types. If you want a market order like instant execution, but still the safety of a limit order, then for all buy positions, place an order at a limit price that is higher than the selling price. The order will get an instant fill. Likewise, for a sell position, place the order at a slightly lower price than the prevailing market price to ensure you get an instant fill. By doing so, you get the protection of a limit order, but the behavior is like a market order. If you're buying stocks, then one good idea is to split the buy position between both the exchanges, assuming there is not much liquidity in one of the exchanges. Since the impact cost is dynamic and changes through the day, maybe you can also try placing your order throughout the day as opposed to placing the order in just one go. Liquidity picks up during the day, so don't be in a hurry to place the orders at the market open or at the closing time, as the shallow market depth during these time period can lead to higher impact cost. Apart from all these things, I would also suggest you use features like the disclosed quantity or the Iceberg orders to minimize the hit from impact cost. You can click on the links from the description to read more about these features and order types. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.